Looming above the streets of Paris, there lies a particular building. From the ground, looking up, every once in a while you get glimpses of it. And from its steps, you've got a near panoramic view of the French capital. The building I'm referring to is the Basilica of Sacré-Cœur. It's one of the most recognizable places in an already immensely recognizable city. But this church sits atop more than just a hill overlooking Paris. Behind it is a controversial past and questions that have defined a nation: left versus right, the church versus the state. Let's take a look at what makes this building so controversial. The 18th of March, 1871 marked the beginning of the Paris Commune. This was a 2-month-long revolutionary revolt that would mark the history of the city and of Europe as a whole. In the aftermath of the defeat of France at the hands of Prussia, the situation in the city became tense. Paris was deeply divided between the lower classes and those in power that represented the elites. On the morning of the 18th of March, 2 brigades of soldiers from the army were ordered to take into their command a cache of cannons that sat atop Montmartre. They were met with resistance from locals and radicalized units of the National Guard. Resistance turned into gunfire, and by the end of the day, the national government was evacuating the entire capital, and working-class neighborhoods were erecting barricades throughout the city. For the next 2 months, the city was under siege. This culminated in a week-long battle where somewhere between 10 and 30,000 people were killed. It's hard to put into perspective just how impactful this event was. Many socialists, communists, and leftists in the late 1800s and early 1900s saw it as the first time that a real revolution had succeeded in governing. The Commune was mainly opposed to 3 things: capitalism, monarchism, and the church. On the same hill as where the revolt began, and a mere 4 years after it was suppressed, the construction of Sacré-Coeur began. This location was chosen for a few reasons. This hill, Montmartre, is one of the highest in the city. It's also the alleged site where Christian martyrs had been killed nearly a millennia before. But more importantly, the building of this church had to do with something deeper, something more spiritual. This is Alexandre Félix Le Gentil. Born into a wealthy textile-producing family, his piety is one of the main reasons this building even exists. A year before the events of the Commune, the Prussian army was besieging and later occupying the capital. During that time, Le Gentil was in refuge outside of the city. When he came back, he took a vow that he would do all he could to help in the creation of a church dedicated to the Sacred Heart of Jesus Christ. This as a form of national atonement against a century of sacrilege. In his eyes, all the bad that had come to France over the previous decades was punishment from God, and a monumental church overlooking the city was the only way to put an end to the misfortunes of France. This church was born in the immediate aftermath of a war against Germany and a revolt by the working class. And it was finished during another war with Germany and communist revolutions sweeping the continent. As much as it is a symbol of beauty and architecture, it's also a symbol of the political and ideological battles that shape the continent. Between 1875, when the foundation was laid, and 1914, when the church was officially finished, the fight of whether or not to continue building or begin dismantling the nascent building reached national proportions. Anti-clerical majorities in the National Assembly tried multiple times to end the project, but after each vote, some technicality would cause the discussion to be kicked down the road. As the years passed and more of the church was built, the opposition became more symbolic. One such demonstration was the installation of this statue right in front of the church in 1901. It shows François-Jean de la Barre being burned at the stake by the church after an act of blasphemy. He died at 20 years old in 1766. The inauguration of the statue was visited by 25,000 people. Nearly 100 years later, individuals like former socialist Prime Minister Lionel Jospin see the building as a symbol of ignorance and bad taste. Before the rise of secularism in Western Europe and the US, organized churches had a defined role and rights completely different than how they are now. In France, this was most evident in the Ancien Régime. Back then, the clergy possessed vast plots of land and collected heavy taxes from the lower class. The lower class, which was 98% of the population, had no upward mobility. When the French Revolution was sparked, a key element of it was anti-clericalism and de-Christianization, as a revolt against the previous social status and those in power. This is where laïcité comes into play. At the time that the building of Sacré-Coeur was being promoted, funded, and constructed, the late 19th century struggle of forming a secular state was underway in France, thus adding to the symbolic fight against the new religious building overlooking the center of the country. Paris is not like any other major city, for good reason. Major world cities are defined by and define themselves thanks to their icons, which are looped into their history. New York, specifically Manhattan, is massive. It's imposing, the world's first vertical city. Cities like Los Angeles or Rio sit at the foot of mountains. Their geography gives them a certain dramatic depth. But Paris is flat. It doesn't have imposing mountains, nor does it have Tokyo-style or New York-style vertical skyscrapers. Not really. What it does have, and this is by design and norm, is a certain kind of geometry that's unique. A huge swath of buildings look almost identical to this. And cutting through the city, you've got these long boulevards with monuments at their crown. The little topographic change that the city does have gives you glimpses of these monuments from far away. And, every once in a while, you can catch a glimpse of the white domes and tower of Sacré-Cœur, overlooking Paris.